Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand Extra. Yes, we're back after the winter break as Rangers return to action with a Scottish Cup trip to the glamorous environs of Cowdenbeath. Joining me to look ahead to the match is Heart and Hand stalwart Mr. Ian Hogg. Hello there, Hoggy.
Good evening, David. Good evening everyone out there. So glad to be back.
Yeah, it feels a long time when you don't have Rangers, but we couldn't have gone into this break in any better mood after beating Celtic in the last match. A big victory for us, and it has led to a period of good feeling. The team have been away in Tenerife and some new faces added, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah, we certainly started the break on an absolute high. 48 hours after that, of course, David, you wouldn't have realised that it was an absolute high because the narrative was attempted to be changed, and it was all those pesky referees' fault. If only the referee had decided to do something different with Alfredo Morelos than see the incident and referee it properly. If only he had treated him differently, and we've been subjected to that for the next 2 weeks, almost in an attempt to take the gloss off or take the shine off, or just completely change the narrative and make others forget. Sadly, for such people it hasn't. It was bloody excellent. And then of course we've come in and we've started the transfer window on I think on a particular high. I think, with two now signings and two signings to come.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, as you mentioned, we on Heart and Hand, because we did the podcast on the Monday, we didn't really discuss the refereeing controversy because it didn't exist at that point 2 days after the match. So after the match, Celtic, the manager and most of the pundits seemed to believe that it was just due to Rangers being the better side on the day, but that ebbed away over the next few days, and we then had 2 weeks of manufactured controversy leading to headline after headline pointing out that it was a sin for them. But Celtic always cheated, never defeated since 1888. But let's look ahead before we discuss the match. I just want to take you back to the last time Rangers played Cowdenbeath on the 7th of March 2015, and I'll just go through the Rangers starting 11 that day, Hoggy. It was Lee Robinson, Darren McGregor, Lee McCulloch, Marius Zaliukas, Lee Wallace, Nicky Law, Kyle Hutton, Harris Vukic, Kenny Miller, Chris Boyd, John Daly and Dean Shields. Coming on were Stephen Smith and Nicky Clark. Not ideal, I think it's fair to say, a Rangers lineup, and I think we might go with a slightly stronger team tomorrow, as you mentioned, aided by two new signings of real quality players. Stephen Davis, former Ranger, and of course last 6 years he's been at Southampton, and Jermain Defoe, former England international, experienced Premier League striker for clubs such as Portsmouth, Tottenham, Sunderland, and we got him from Bournemouth. And the fans, I think it's fair to say, are excited about this.
They are. Jesus, you read that team out. It's like the Rangers land that time forgot, or maybe more aptly that we're still trying to forget, and yet we still followed them everywhere, thick and thin. Going into the match tomorrow, you're adding guys like, we know that we needed a calming playmaking influence in the middle of the park. We've got one who's been there, done it, and knows what we're all about. We know that we needed at least backup to Morelos at worst, or probably at best. We know we needed another centre forward that could be relied on to score goals. I think Jermain Defoe, as long as he's fit, absolutely falls into that category. And what we heard from Jermain Defoe through all the interviews was a guy that's hungry to play football, score goals and win trophies. They'll do for me, David, frankly. And it gives us, whether it's Cowdenbeath or Celtic, it gives us quite an array of options, which, you're going to Cowdenbeath. You want to give, some of the younger guys a bit of a run out. You don't want to take any chances, of course. Playing against Celtic, you want to have absolute options for every single, whether we're winning or drawing or losing. I know it's only 2 players, David, but by Christ, they are 2 magnificent players that we've signed. And as I say, we go into that Cowdenbeath game. Jermain Defoe could make his Rangers debut in Cowdenbeath. I'm not entirely sure he'll have been anywhere like it.
Not for a while, anyway. No, I can't think he'll have played in many places quite like Cowdenbeath. But Stephen Gerrard, has said that both Stephen Davis and Jermain Defoe will feature at some point tomorrow, so that's something to look forward to. And look, I'm a great believer in you have to be careful when you're signing older players who have a reputation, because what they were and what they are often 2 completely different things. And for recent history, in Rangers' case, you only need to look at Nico Kranjčar, who was a splendid footballer, he really was. And occasionally he would show you a moment that was a throwback to who he had been, but the player who arrived at Ibrox was not the same guy. And that is always the risk you take when you sign older players who are on the way down. Now, Stephen Davis is not the same player we had. We know this. He's older. I think he's gained certain things in his time at Southampton that he's improved upon, but obviously he won't have the little change of pace or whatever that he may have had a few years ago. And with Jermain Defoe, then clearly he's not the striker that he was even 5-6 years ago, and we know that. It's about, though, what can this version of Jermain Defoe and this version of Stephen Davis do? Can they improve our squad? And absolutely they can. In Davis, we've got somebody who can pick a pass, who can control the tempo of a midfield, control the tempo of a match, something we've lacked quite often this season, especially when teams sitting against us. And with Jermain Defoe, we have a guy who can finish chances. He's got great movement. He's not a poacher. He doesn't just hang about the 6-yard box. He's got terrific movement. He'll move defenders out of the way, something, again, we have struggled with in matches where teams have set up against us. So I'm excited, not because of the names, but because of who they are now, Hoggy, and what I think they can deliver for us in the next season and a half.
And also the very down-to-earth nature of their interviews. There was no sound bites. There was just determination to do well. There was no almost contrived stuff through the interviews. It felt quite genuine. And I guess, we're all excited on a number of levels, David. What I will say is, just remember the week or 2 prior to the Old Firm game. That would be my disclaimer. We were dropping points twice against Hibs. We're dropping points against Dundee. We're being beaten by Aberdeen. We had a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde December, and absolutely it ended on the highest of highs. And that's what we need to hit the ground running with in January, because we've got, after Cowdenbeath, we've got a few tough fixtures coming up that we really need to be trying to get maximum points from. But that Old Firm game, especially given it had been pretty poorish through December, certainly up and down, to finish with a performance like that, then have the aftermath that we've had, that we've largely not stopped laughing for 2.5 weeks, and sign the players that we've signed. And absolutely, they're older, maybe wiser, but they are. Look at the 2 guys that they've replaced. Anyone out there trying to tell me that Stephen Davis is not a significant upgrade on Ovie Ejaria, and likewise Jermain Defoe with Umar Sadiq, we are in a far, far stronger position, even since the 29th of December.
Yeah, I think that the people who've done maybe the best out of this were those who had sponsored Umar Sadiq, who now get Jermain Defoe, which I think is actually a fair trade, because I don't think they got value for money for 6 months of their sponsorship. I think they will. It wasn't us. We, of course, got Heartlands on Lasana Koulibaly. Now, cup tie away from home. Rangers haven't played for a few weeks, and I think that's a good thing, because we were shattered in December. You could see it. I think the players gave everything in one last go against Celtic, which was great, but they did it with the knowledge that they had this time off. We've been to Tenerife. A good training camp was had. Everything was very positive. But you're coming back in, you haven't played for a wee while, there might be a little bit of rust at the start of the match, bedding in a couple of new players, as you say. It's a match Rangers absolutely should win, but if we don't approach it 100% correctly, then it can become a struggle. And you and I do a show on Heart and Hand's Patreon network called The Advocate Years, which has now moved into the Eck era, when we go through game by game everything that happened under the reigns of Dick Advocaat and now Alex McLeish. And in an early Alex McLeish match, Rangers, with a team containing players such as Ronald de Boer and Claudio Caniggia, went to Berwick and drew 0-0 with a rather shambolic performance. So if you don't have your eye properly on the ball in a match like this, Hoggy, it's beyond comprehension. It could go wrong, but it can if you don't do the basics correctly.
As they didn't that night, all the way back in, 2002. However, I have to say, if you can guarantee me right now, David, that we draw on Friday night and then win the cup on the last day of the season against Celtic 3-2 with a last-second winner, I'll probably get it. I'll probably buy it. However, Cowdenbeath, 5th in Scottish League Division 2, managed by Gary Boland, ex of this parish, much to all of our amusement. And you know, they're 5th in League Division 2 for a reason. Let's face it. But they will be up for it. They'll stick in all the old cliches, the 200%. It's their cup final and etc. etc. They'll be trying their damnedest. If we are not on it, then we could be in trouble. That said, I expect us, after the 29th of December, after the training camp, after the feel-good factor and after the signings, I expect us to come out the traps and really go for it tomorrow night, David.
It's an interesting one in terms of the temptation to give people a run out that maybe haven't seen a lot of football this season is, I think, almost balanced by the fact Rangers have a friendly on Sunday at Ibrox at home to HJK Helsinki, of course the club that Alfredo Morelos was signed from, and this was apparently part of the deal that Rangers agreed this friendly. The manager therefore has an opportunity to give those type of players a run out on Sunday, and I think maybe tempted, because this is obviously the competitive match, it's by far the more important match, he may be thinking, right, give my first teamers a go tomorrow night, get them out, get the job done, hopefully get a few goals, play well, build confidence, but it also then gives you the extra couple of days off before the next league match. And
it's all going to be a balance, because yes, we're out of Europe, yes, we had fixtures backing up and all the rest of it, but the first couple of weeks back, we've got a difficult wee run. I think we've got our next two games are after Helsinki or Kilmarnock away, followed by Livingston away. Not the easiest by any stretch. Then we're at home. Then we've got Aberdeen away. So we do need to, I think, through the rest of January and the start of February, just balance the squad, make sure that we're getting plenty of rest and we're not burning out early doors. I'd probably like to see us, David, going to Cowdenbeath and not taking any chances with players who are maybe carrying wee niggles. Let's face it, our reserves should be enough to go out and beat Cowdenbeath, but we need to show the competition the respect that it deserves, and we need to look to the past, to where we've not been at it with Ronald de Boer and Claudio Caniggia and not got a result. So I would imagine maybe 75% of the team will be normal first teamers, made up with some
squad,
guys on the fringe, squad players, guys in the fringes. The others will get a wee run out for a half on Sunday, and then the second half will effectively be under 19s, and then it'll be on to Wednesday in Rugby Park.
Yep, and a lot to look forward to in the second half of this season. Now, the manager spoke about injuries tomorrow night. Connor Goldson won't feature. He said carrying a slight knock, but will be back soon. But probably the biggest news, although he did mention two long-term injury concerns, which are Graham Dorrans, who he said could be back in February, and Jamie Murphy, rather splendidly, could be back before the end of the season, which obviously is not going to contribute an awful lot, but just great news that the injury recovery is going slightly ahead of schedule. That's fantastic. But the one that really caught my eye in the press conference was he said that Borna Barisic will be getting minutes in the next few games, and he's fit, he's been training. That's, I think, a huge plus point for us, Hoggy, because he was a guy that I must admit I thought we'd lost for an extended period, talking 2-3 months, when he went down with that injury. So to get him back would be tremendous.
I think if we've got him back and he's 100% fit, he's not going to be 100% match fit, clearly, but as long as he's physically fit, then give him the minutes. Borna Barisic's problem, I think, is that he never got a full pre-season with Osijek, quite simply because they were in the same position as us. He got injured in that kind of early pre-season European matches, and he struggled with that through the first half of the season. Lack of a pre-season, lack of the prep. Comes back, gets another niggling injury, and obviously got his injury up at St Johnstone. I thought he'd be out for a couple of months, I have to say. And here we are, 4 weeks later, and he's ready to come back. So if that's the case, then I would be giving him minutes tomorrow night, 60 minutes or so, or whatever. And if not, then certainly a half against Helsinki. But just to have him back, recognised first choice left back, who I thought they would have to say was starting to come onto a game.
Yeah, so did I. Just before he got injured, yeah.
He was defending well, he was getting forward well, he was linking the play up really, really well down the left-hand side, and then he got injured, and all of us, I think, went, oh, fuck it, not again. But that was him in the first half of the season. So hopefully he's used the last 3 weeks, therefore, almost as a mini pre-season for himself.
Yep. Now, just before we wrap up and do our predictions ahead of the match tomorrow night, the other two transfers that you pointed out are pre-contracts. Two SPFL players, Glenn Kamara of Dundee has agreed to join in the summer, as had Jordan Jones of Kilmarnock, long-term target for Rangers. They attempted to sign him in the last January break, of course. Kilmarnock turning down the Rangers bid at the time. His contract will expire in the summer and he's moving to Rangers, which he caused a bit of controversy with Kilmarnock fans because he sent a tweet where he included the phrase "We are the people," and he's very excited to become at Rangers, obviously. But Dundee, it would appear, are shall we say, amenable to Glenn Kamara joining in this break, although rather cheekily they asked for Ross McCrory to go on loan as part of that deal, which was laughed out of court for obvious reasons. Whereas Kilmarnock are very keen to retain Jordan Jones, so Rangers are going to wait to the summer by the looks of things, unless something significant changes there. What are your thoughts on these two players, Hoggy?
Two younger players. I mean, Jones is 24, I think Cameron's 22 or 23. Both internationalists with Northern Ireland and Finland, respectively, and they've looked the part for their club sides. Not always, not every game, not consistently, but they've looked the part against us, against Celtic, against Hibs, against Hearts. And certainly, I think when we played against Dundee and Cameron's been in the side, he's been their best player. Yeah,
he has.
Jordan Jones has caused us problems. He's caused Celtic problems, and he's a real handful. I still think he's a little bit raw, which at 24, hopefully we can, rub the edges off. But I think I tend not to go overboard about SPFL signings, to be honest, David, because they're SPFL signings. However, the flip side, of course, is every Rangers squad in modern history, let's go soonest onwards, every single Rangers squad has had Scottish League players throughout the squad. Because quite simply, we can't, and I think shouldn't, make up a squad of foreigners or external players or folk who haven't played in the Scottish League or whatever. That's asking for trouble. So if we're signing two guys from Kilmarnock are doing very well, Dundee are fighting for their lives and probably, I think, batting above where they probably should be. If we're signing really their two best players, then for me, and getting them for free, that's it. That's the key. That's an absolute no risk, no lose strategy. And hopefully they become very good players for us. If they don't, no harm, no foul. we'll sell them and make a profit.
That's a fact. If that happened after a year or 2 years, Rangers would sell them and make a few bob while doing so. So no, I agree with you on that one. Okay then, Hoggy, time for your prediction tomorrow night. If you were going to your local turf accountant, what would be your bet?
I would go for Cowdenbeath 1, Rangers 6, with Jermain Defoe getting 2 in the second half.
I am going to go for get money on Jermain Defoe to score a double, at least. But I'm going to go for a more conservative 3-0 tomorrow night. I think that might be I hope it's one of these games that we do the business early and then it just gets played out towards the end where they're not going overboard. But, yep. Fingers crossed then. Looking forward to having the team back. The game, of course, tomorrow night. If you're lucky enough to have a ticket, enjoy. If you're not, it's on Premier Sports. We've discussed that before, but it is what it is. Just to remind you then that you can hear us every single day, and in fact tomorrow night after the match, for example, we'll be back on our Patreon site. So if you like the show here, then for just $1.99 a month you can hear us every single day, all sorts of different shows on every imaginable Rangers and football topic. It's very, very good place to be. Go and check it out. Heart and Hand on patreon.com. That's patreon.com/heart and hand. We'd be happy to have you on board. Just then, time to thank our producers in London, Mr. Mike Lee and Paul Myers, and to thank the lovely Mr. Ian Hogg.
Pleasure as always, mate. Glad to have us back.
We'll be back on Monday to discuss the Cowdenbeath and the HJK Helsinki matches. Until then, have a wonderful weekend and I hope your team wins. Take care. Bye.